It began like a quiet storm that no one saw coming. Judge Judy entered the courtroom with her sharp gaze that could slice through any lie. The air was tense. You could feel the weight of 2 broken hearts and 1,000 unsaid words sitting heavy in the room. On one side stood Mr. Baptiste, tall but tired, his eyes filled with the kind of frustration that comes when truth and regret blur together. On the other side was his ex-wife, Melissa Carter, a woman who looked more weary than wicked, clutching her handbag as if it held every answer she wished she could give. Behind them were whispers of the past. 2 children, one shared home now divided by walls of blame. It all began, as Judge Judy soon revealed, not with betrayal or infidelity, but with a card. A simple plastic card, a Cigna HSA debit card meant for medical expenses, not breakfast runs. Yet this small piece of plastic had grown into a symbol of broken trust, forgotten communication, and all the things that go wrong when love turns into legal paperwork. Mr. Baptiste, the defendant is your now ex-wife. You have children together? Judge Judy's voice was firm, yet she carried the tone of someone who'd seen this story far too often. Love destroyed not by hate, but by mismanagement. 2, Your Honor, he replied, his voice steady but laced with resentment. And when was your divorce finalized? She asked. June this year. Melissa's. Fingers tightened around her purse strap. June. The month her name. Changed from Mrs. to Ms. the month she stopped being half of a whole and became a single mother of 2. At some point before the divorce, Mr. Baptiste had given her that HSA card. It was just for co-pays. Medicine, the kids' doctor visits, he said. But the truth, as Judge Judy dug deeper, was murkier. Melissa had used it, yes, for breakfasts, snacks, and small meals for their children. McDonald's or Sonic, she admitted softly. She wasn't buying jewelry or designer bags. She was buying food. That's not what it was meant for, Judge Judy replied sharply. But there was something in her tone that carried both justice and sadness. The kind of sadness that understands how life pushes desperate people into bending rules. Mr. Baptiste, a full-time college student, explained that he wasn't working and paid $950 a month in child support. Melissa nodded. She lived alone with the kids, juggling loans, bills, and sleepless nights. But Judge Judy wasn't there for sympathy. She was there for truth. Did you have a discussion when he gave you the card? She asked. A brief one, Melissa said, her voice trembling. The courtroom lights seemed harsher when Judge Judy leaned forward. Did you use the card after the divorce? Melissa hesitated, guilt flickering across her face. Once, maybe twice. For the kids, Judge Judy's pen stopped midair. For the kids? She repeated. Those 3 words hung in the air. A justification, a plea, and a confession all in one. For the kids. But rules are rules, and that card wasn't for McNuggets or Sonic Blasts. When asked when he gave her the card, Melissa said early 2014. Mr. Baptiste corrected her, April 2013. The date mattered, not for money, but for memory. Judge Judy wanted the bills, and he handed them over, pages of transactions that spoke louder than either parent could. Judge Judy flipped through the printouts, her eyes scanning every date. Every dollar. Sir, she said, finally looking up. You're telling me for a year and a half? She used this card and you never noticed. Mr. Baptiste swallowed hard. I didn't realize until this year when I was checking my doctor's statements. Judge Judy's expression changed. Half disbelief, half pity. That's your problem. Because if she had this card that long and you didn't look at your bills, even while going through a divorce, then something's wrong with you, or I don't believe you. The tension cracked like glass. Melissa shifted, her shoulders stiff. He didn't notice because maybe he didn't want to. Maybe ignoring it was easier than confronting the fact that his marriage had been failing long before lawyers entered. Judge Judy motioned for the court assistant to pull all records from the last 18 months. Don't waste my time, she said, her voice cutting the air like steel. You had an agreement. She was only to use it for medical things. Are you telling me she followed that until after the divorce? Mr. Baptiste hesitated. I didn't get bills or statements, Melissa interrupted softly. I have printed transactions. From this year. Bring them, said Judge Judy. Melissa's trembling hands passed over the papers. Judge Judy examined them, flipping pages, reading silently before speaking again. So, Mr. Baptiste, look here. January, February, March. Your ex-wife used this card for dinners. You could have known. These printouts were always available. You were on notice for a year that this card was used for other things. I wasn't on notice, he muttered. Judge Judy's eyes flashed. You were on notice, sir. It was your card. You can't pretend ignorance when the proof was in your hand. The courtroom held its breath. Behind every receipt was a story. Late-night runs for food when the kids couldn't sleep. Tiny joys paid for with someone else's anger. Melissa looked at her ex-husband, not with hatred, but exhaustion. The kind that comes after fighting too long for too little. Judge Judy summarized coldly. You're here for $1,900. You claim she ran up that amount after the divorce. Unauthorized. Against your agreement. You say she took advantage. The word hung there, advantage. But sometimes people don't take advantage. They take survival. Sir, Judge Judy continued, it's clear to me that you were funding this account, and your wife, your then-wife, used it for her and your children's benefit. You let it go on. That's on you. Melissa exhaled, a breath that seemed to carry months of weight. Did you take the card back? Judge Judy asked finally. I canceled it, Mr. Baptiste said. Good, she said, setting her pen down. Then it's done. You have no more card. Case dismissed. But stories like this don't end when the gavel falls. They echo. In the quiet car rides home. In the late-night messages unsent. In the kids' questions that parents can't answer. As Melissa walked out, she thought of all the small choices that led her here. The day she said yes at the altar. The day she said enough in court. The mornings when she couldn't afford groceries, but still smiled for her children. And the nights when the sound of the fridge door closing felt louder than any argument they ever had. Mr. Baptiste left slower, staring at the papers Judge Judy had read. He wasn't angry anymore, just empty. Somewhere inside, he knew she didn't steal from him. She just lived differently than he thought she should. And maybe that was the real reason they couldn't last. Not dishonesty, but difference. In a corner of the courtroom, the clerk cleared the papers, but the air still carried what every Judge Judy case does, the truth, loud and raw. Not just about cards or bills, but about how love decays when trust goes unspoken. Time passed. Melissa found a job at a local clinic. Mr. Baptiste finished college and started work as a technician. The kids grew. One loved soccer, the other loved drawing. They didn't remember much about the card or the courtroom, but they remembered their parents, one kind, one strict, both human. Every so often, when bills piled up, Melissa thought about that card, how one small thing could cause such chaos, how something meant to help became a weapon of blame, and she'd whisper to herself, it's just money. But deep down, she knew it was never just money. It was pride. It was pain. It was everything they never said to each other. The lesson came years later, on a summer day when their son fell off his bike. Melissa rushed to the hospital, and there, sitting in the waiting room, was Mr. Baptiste. No lawyers, no anger, just two parents again. He handed her a bottle of water. She smiled, a quiet truce forming between them. The nurse asked for insurance. For a second, they both laughed. No more cards, Melissa said. I'll pay cash this time. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about peace. In the years that followed, Melissa taught her kids the one rule she wished she'd learned sooner. Never let pride cost you your peace. And sometimes, when Judge Judy's reruns played late at night, she'd stop for a moment, remembering that courtroom, the gavel, the questions, the truth. She didn't hate that day anymore. She just understood it. Life, she realized, isn't about winning cases. It's about surviving chapters. And for Mr. Baptiste, success didn't come from justice served. It came from learning responsibility, from knowing that ignorance is never innocence. He once said to a friend, you can't fix the past, but you can stop it from repeating. The courtroom had ended their marriage, but it also began their maturity. The card that once divided them now existed only as a reminder that sometimes The smallest misunderstandings reveal the biggest truths about people. And in the end, as all stories in Judge Judy's court seem to teach, truth always finds its way out, not through shouting, but through stillness. This story reminds us that trust is not about keeping score. It's about keeping faith. Money can be earned again, but broken communication costs more than any balance ever could. In love, in marriage, in life, what destroys us isn't betrayal. It's silence. Speak. Listen. Understand. Because sometimes what we think is a lie is only a cry for help we didn't hear in time, ing faintly.